And one thing you might be wondering is, how come I didn't complete him? He's missing an arm and he's missing a leg. Well, what I'm going to do is convert those pieces in to symbols, and then I'll just replicate them for the other side there. But I want to do the symbol conversion first, and then we'll talk about getting those over to the other side. And you know what? I've had this library kind of floating off over here for a while. What I'm going to do is close it out and then make it reappear over here. And let me scoot this over just a little bit. Another option I could do, though, is if I really kind of wanted to squeeze my space together. Actually, let me get it back up. And dragging on this, you can see I can kind of put it anywhere really I want almost in my workspace. But there's one that I believe should split with, no, well, actually that might be better. I wasn't thinking splitting horizontal, I was actually thinking of up and down like that, but this might work out just as good. Let's see if I can actually make it. Oh. Well, I don't know, I might have to take that back. I was feeling compressed there. Okay, so, excuse me. How do we do this again? You know, there's one crucial step that I don't want to overlook, so let's go ahead and do it. See how my timeline kind of goes out here to frame 60 like this? Okay. Of course, the drawings all disappear after this initial frame that I was drawing them on. But what I want to do is actually take this timeline and squeeze it over. And in fact, you know, I didn't even get, there we go. I want to grab this guy. So now my scrubber here is just kind of stuck on frame 1. Okay, I can't even move it off of there. Because the way I'm going to be creating these symbols will be to just drag each layer into the symbol folder over here. And that'll do a couple things. It'll just kind of encapsulate that artwork to make it reusable for later. So I kind of easily pick it out of the library there. So let's say I deleted everything on the stage accidentally, and or in one full swoop I just deleted everything and then accidentally closed down the program. Oh, I'd be in trouble then because I wouldn't be able to get back to my artwork that I just made. Well, not exactly, because it'd be in the library and then I could pull it back out of there. That's I guess probably one of many reasons to convert things to a symbol, but certainly for animation we just kind of need to, and you'll find out why momentarily. But if I hadn't squeezed together or compressed the timeline down to just this one frame here, when I moved these layers over there, each one of them would kind of, within that symbol, would have that 60 frames as well. And that would then I would feel like I needed to go back in there and delete out those extra frames for a reason I'll show you in a second, which is better than just explaining it. So anyway, let's start here. We'll just take this lake top and boom, put it in there. Look at that; it's got the same name as that layer. Okay, there we go. So I'm just dragging all these guys over here. And you know what? Now that I think about it, I probably should have keyframed them first. Well, you know, that might not be necessary. In fact, it probably wasn't, now that I think about it. There's a difference between having this layer just have a drawing on it and having that that be a keyframe on there. I don't think it's necessary actually right now, because it is just that first frame anyway. Okay, so I've got the excuse me, I've got those guys all over there. What I'm going to do is actually get rid of all the layers now that just have drawings on them. And this will actually seem kind of redundant in a second, because really what I'm going to be doing is just taking all these parts and then dragging them back onto the stage. But there's something actually really cool that I want to show you to do with that. So even if there is a better way to do it, let's just click OK. So I'm going to get rid of all of them. See that little negative sign there? They're gone. And now I probably actually have to create, well, let's see if I need to. I'll start with the body. Okay, so that threw that back on there. One thing that surprised me when I initially started using Animate here was that sometimes you would get this like kind of pink mode when you selected objects, and initially I was like, what? Why is that? Is that something I can turn off? I don't want to see that pink every time I select it. But there is actually good reason for that. Your symbols get color-coded differently depending on how you're using them. And actually you'll see when we have these in a hierarchy that they go into kind of a red mode, indicating that if you move something, you're also going to be moving something else as well. And I've even seen a yellow mode, I think, which we should be coming up to, because I would have just seen that today when I was practicing for this lesson. So there's all sorts of different kind of color coding here for selectability, and it does make a lot of sense. But at first, again, I talked about this actually in a previous lesson, that you kind of, when you start learning a new program, you want it to act one way, and really what you have to do is kind of hold on tight and wait for the developer to show you how they think it should act, which is usually much better. So anyway, here's kind of the cool thing. So I'm going to drag the hat down here, and even though it's not on top of the body like I had it before, it's in the same exact place. So watch what happens if I start dragging all these pieces back onto the stage. They remember where they were from the last time. And I could be doing this a little bit more intelligently by actually thinking about how I want them stacked up. Because now what I have to do is I have to go kind of re-put them on top of each other where they should be. But I think that's pretty neat. I don't exactly know why I think that's really cool, but I just do. So let's go ahead and drop the eyes on there. And let's do the mustache. Okay, that we need to drag up some. Let's put that above the eyes. When you are changing around your layer hierarchy, one thing that you want to avoid, at least at this stage, is parenting one symbol underneath another one, and that's pretty obvious if you do that, because right now, see, all of our pluses are nicely lined up like that. Let's say I drag this layer kind of right up here, and see how this line appears like that? That's an indication that I'm about to make it make the nose apparent for this child right down here, which we are going to do in a second, but we don't want to do that right now, and we certainly wouldn't want to do that. Well, actually, maybe we would want to do that for the nose and the mustache. But anyway, you can see now that, okay, these pluses are not aligned. If you didn't mean to do that, then all you got to do is just kind of move this out of there, and let's see, let's put it, actually we'll just drag it above something else. That seems to be the way to get rid of that. Okay, there we go. Got those stacked up correctly. What are we missing here? The leg top, leg bottom, and finally that foot. Oh, and you know what? That hand. Where'd that go to? There we go. Okay, and one thing I do want to check is I'm going to double click inside of this hat right here, and a good indication that I'm kind of within the timeline of another symbol. Okay, so not up on the main timeline. Well, a few things. The obvious thing is that all these other objects are kind of grayed out behind me there, and then another one is that it says hat, okay, at the top there, and then top. So if I want to get up to the main timeline again, I'm just going to go click on top. I'm back up there. So you see all my layers like normal. And similar to Flash, you can kind of keep diving into this symbol hierarchy. If I had, let's say, another symbol within here, okay, and I guess that's probably easy to show you guys. I could just drag that within this symbol as well, and then I could double click into the eyes and so on. But let's get rid of that. Okay. One thing I wanted to check was that we still just had this one frame right here, okay? And now let's actually demonstrate the reason for that. Okay, I've got the hat selected, okay? And one of the fundamentals of this program, I think, is these drawing substitutions right here. And you can see right now, I've only got one symbol, or one version of this symbol. And if I had left 60 frames inside of this hat, then this right here would not, well, it would probably still be 1, but then I would have this timeline, or this slider right here, and it would have 60 kind of intervals for 60 variations of the hat. Even though we only have one drawing in there, basically it would just blank out for the other 59, okay? So when I set this up earlier today, I kind of made that mistake of leaving this out here like that, okay, and then when I dragged these each of these layers in there to become a symbol, I was also having all these other kind of empty frames in there. All right, so we are going to talk about that a little bit more in a second, but just think for a second, kind of the power of being able to be up here on your top timeline. And if I had two different versions of this mustache right here, well, actually, you know, let's just go ahead and do it. But to be able to swap between them, okay, that's pretty unique. Whereas if you're used to Flash, you'd have to go and click on swap symbol, go find it, dig it out of the library. This is set up so that you're constantly kind of doing fast swapping of symbols, and it's even more important when you have set up a hierarchy for your character, your inverse kinematics chain, or whatever, you know, whatever it is, to be able to quickly go and replace one hand position for another. So I mean, let's see, this maybe a better thing to do it with would be this arm, because we do actually want a variation of this arm later on. So let's go, and if I can grab this, looks like I gotta be careful and grab it right there. By the way, if you do want a kind of different magnification for your keyframes here, that's always possible. You can just slide that in and out. So yeah, let's do this. Actually, what we'll do is come out to the second frame and hit F5, okay, and that actually hasn't done anything other than just give me the ability to see this same drawing on two frames. Then what I'll do is I will select it. Actually, let me make sure I've got everything selected, the strokes, the black part, and also the blue part, and then go over here to drawing, duplicate drawings. Okay, screen didn't change much there, except that this now says 2, all right, and there's a little divider on the timeline. Okay, so if I were to go over here to 1, or frame 1, okay, don't confuse that with this number 1 over here. This is actually showing me the first drawing, and this is the second one. Now they're just identical at this point. So let's do this. Let's go and let me think of the easiest way of changing this guy. Would it be to let's click on this white arrow, and yeah, well, we could mess around with the contours. Another way probably is easier is just grab this perspective right here and just, oops, actually I don't want to do that. There we go. Select it again with that tool, and then just start trying to pull it apart like so. Like that. And then what you might want to consider is, let me just grab this magnifying glass, is how this will pop off from the arm. So in which case, actually, you can just grab the brush tool and fill this in a little bit. Let's go back over here to color, grab this guy, and just kind of scribble that in like so. Another thing you could do would be, let's go back over to the contour editor, click on this. Would it be to pull these points a little bit? Okay, that's pretty easy, right? And actually, you know, by drawing that on there, I had two different shapes. I could have, let's see if I had those over here, back over to the brush, tool properties. If I had auto flatten on, I believe that would have just connected those guys. But that's okay, you know, it really does not matter at all. So anyway, let's do this. I'm actually using the mouse right now, and I'm holding the Wacom tablet, and somehow I think this is going to be good for teaching a lesson. Let's go back over. Actually, let me just choose what device I'm going to teach with here. All right, so I've got going back over here to the main timeline with the Wacom tablet. Okay, this looks like I have 2 frames here, but just because I was moving around that guy. All right, so we are still we just have this 1 frame on here. Let's zoom out a bit. By the way, if you want to kind of reposition things easily, you can always hold down the space bar and move stuff around. And let's make sure the library is still open. Okay, so I've got this arm right here, and now notice that the slider is in the middle because it's the slider always kind of just is positioned based on how many overall frames or substitutions, let's say, you have within that symbol. So I've got two of them, so it's going to be in the middle. And look at that. All right, so I can go back and forth between these two guys right here. Okay, deselect. And yeah, that one's sure not perfect, is it? But that's okay. It doesn't have to be perfect either. Which is actually kind of the fun of having a hand-drawn looking character as well. Okay, so imagine that we had lots of different variations for the legs bending, your hand. It could be kind of curling up or something like that. So you can easily go and swap through those different symbols, which we'll do in a second. I'm just trying to think what else. What's the next step? You know what? I think actually the next step is to grab the arm again, and we're going to fill that in. Let's see. That would have put that arm right in the same place as the other one. Since it's behind that guy, let me just lock up that other arm layer that way. I got to move this guy. There we go. And conveniently enough, it's already actually behind everything, so that's pretty good. Let's do this. Go over here to transform, flip horizontally. One little issue, that pivot point is kind of buck wild over there off to the side. I guess, let's see. Move that guy over there. Okay, and I've got to do the same thing for that bottom arm. Was that this guy? Woo, that's an ugly drawing. Let's see, did that get dropped on there with everything else? I think it did. I do need to lock that other one, though, before I start moving this guy. Okay. Let's do the same thing. This time around, let me move that little point, and I believe what should happen is when I flip it horizontally... Nope, actually it's still darted off to the side, so I guess that should have... Nope, oops, I definitely didn't mean to press that. There we go. Well, let's not get into the pivot points yet, but let me do this for the rest of these things. Okay, so there's the hand. I don't know why I'm having such a hard time today. Reading my own symbol names. Okay, it's time for me to learn this hotkey because I hate going and doing all these slow methods on while I'm recording something. But look at this. What an easy, nice little hotkey it is just to flip things around. Just the number 4. Okay, flip stuff like that. Oops, I don't know how that happened. There we go. By the way, I didn't really mean for that animate button to be on this whole time, but it doesn't really matter because we're just on frame 1 here. While I am repositioning things, I guess I should just go ahead and talk to you guys about the pivot point. This pivot point is going to be, well, it's useful for me right now because I am rotating things around it just to position them into place. So let's say, see how that little dot's right there? That's how my hand is rotating around. It's based on that point. So if that point was down here, then my hand would be doing this big clockward motion around that. And it's a good idea to go and just, let's say, select something. I guess you got to select it first. Let's see. And then go over here to your pivot. And then let's say you got deselected, right? I believe what I was doing wrong was I just kept selecting different objects with the pivot point. That's probably not what they want us to do. So let's see. Let's look at a bad example of this. So let's say, you see how my leg is pivoting? You can kind of imagine it's pivoting around that point right there. So now with that selected, let's go over here to pivot. Pull this guy back down here. grab this and deselect it. Okay, so now it's moving around that guy. Okay, let's do this. Let me copy. Oops. Actually, we'll just drag it out from the library. Link top. And where'd that go to? Right over there. Let me lock up the other one just so I be sure that I don't mess with it. Let's drag this below the body. Well, I was planning to make this guy walk, so let's go ahead and consider setting this up like it would be the first frame of a walk cycle. So really that leg would be over there, this leg. Let's unlock these guys. This leg would be out like that. This would be forward. This definitely needs to get its pivot adjusted. Ooh. Okay, let's get the leg bottom. And where did that go to? Leg bottom 1. Alright, and the bottommost layer. That actually works out nice. This is kind of unexpected, but a nice surprise. I didn't realize that the pivot point was going to stay for that symbol that I just added on. That's interesting. I didn't. Yeah, that's again. That's also one of those nice little surprises. So let's try that again. Let's take the foot out of there, and yeah, sure enough, it that symbol remembered the pivot adjustment from what I had just done for this over here. Now, of course, I imagine that you can change that. I know you can change that actually based on what frame you're on or keyframing or whatever, but that's pretty neat. Here's something that's bothering me. Let me just double click on either one of these feet. Okay, so I'm actually in the edit mode for this particular symbol. Let me zoom in. So just select this right here. And again, there's a number of ways I could go about doing this. Let me do it like this. I'm just going to grab the paintbrush, go over here to tool properties. This time I will remember to do auto flatten. I think that's the option that I want. And I'm just going to fill in that little, oops, oh, I do want this to be black. Fill in that area right there. Okay, let me just see if I was right about that. Yep, sure enough, that made that into one shape. Okay, so let's get back over to 100% again. And we've got all the layers on here. That took forever. But now we're ready to start setting this guy up into a real kind of logical hierarchy. And in some sense, it might even look like we're going to end up undoing some things that we were doing before. But I promise this all has a good ending to it. By the way, if you haven't saved yet, probably is now a good time. Okay, so this bottom part of this arm is obviously connected to the top part. So if this top part we're ever going to move, that's going to move along with it. That's just how us human bodies are set up. So I'm going to take this arm 2 layer and then just drag it. We talked about this before. That didn't do the trick. Drag it. There we go. Now these two are chained together. Arm 1 is a hierarchy or a parent for arm 2 up there. And let's see, I think we can even test this right now. You can see, yep, if I were to rotate that arm, look at that. That is going to go along with it. Okay, now, see this hand? Let's go and pull this guy up, 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 up. And that's going to be part of arm 2 there. So now if I were to move that bottom part of that arm, look at that. Move this guy, and remember what I was talking about before, how some things turn red like that. Sure enough, there we go. That's an actual example of that. And that pivot point sure comes in handy because look how it's pivoting around nicely on that bottom part of the arm. So let's consider how we're going to do that for the rest of these things. You know what I'm going to try doing is not actually pivoting or chaining anything to the body, although that seems like that would make a lot of sense. But I think because what we're going to end up doing is creating a peg for that for this entire character, I kind of feel like that might actually be unnecessary to chain everything to the body. And I'm using some terminology there that you might not be familiar with, but a peg will be kind of an animation layer for the entire thing. So let's say I was going to have him moving across, or start from back here and then kind of scale up to down this way. That's what that would be used for. So let's do this. Let's just kind of keep the body where it is and work it from there. Now this is a little bit of a variation from what I was practicing earlier, so we'll see if I end up screwing up royally while I screen capture. So anyway, let's take the eyes and we will put them attached to the head there. Let's take the stash, also attach it to the head. Now notice that these two aren't chained to each other, they're both just chained to the head. Take the nose, do the same thing. So that way, you know, if I were to move this head just kind of up and down, make it bobble or something like that, it's going to take those guys with it. And by the way, you know what? Let's see. I guess when I was kind of playing around just a second ago, selecting this guy, I was using the select tool. There is actually a difference, and there is a divider here between your drawing tools and your animation tools down this way. And when we start animating a second, it's going to be very key that we use, you know, this kind of real animation transform tool versus this select one up here. At this point in the game, it really doesn't matter though. But after, I guess, frame one, after we start keyframing, things like that, it will matter. Okay, so let's do the same thing with this arm. There's that guy. This is the bottom part of it. So let's put it within there. Take the hand, chain it to that arm too. And, oh, what happened there? I didn't even see. You know, I wasn't looking at that part. So let me just undo this and see. Okay. I mean, if it moves, that's not the biggest deal in the world because we will force it to go back over that way. Let's see. I just flipped it around, and I'm going to put it right back where it needs to be. And this arm, let's try putting that. I'm sorry, that hand. There we go. Yeah, it's kind of odd. I don't know why that is, but you know what? It's actually probably. Oh, hey, let's let's use 4 to flip that around. Whatever the reasoning is, it's actually probably my fault because I'm the one that's not used to the program. Okay, so those are ready to go. And you know the nice thing about this too is you can fold these guys up. So let's fold up the head now. Let's fold up all the arms. That means we can manage these layers a little bit easier now too. And leg bottom. Okay, that is going to be a check. Well, you know what? Let's do this leg first. And let me move it up a bit. Same thing with this bottom part. And this as well. Okay, so let's see. Oh, I almost had it. There we go. And that's the right foot. Yeah, you know what the feeling I'm getting is that I should have done the kind of the hierarchy chaining for these guys before moving them around from where they were originally set up at. But you know what? Hey, that's okay. It's not hard to get them back where I need them to be. Okay, so finally, I can kind of assume we'll get some weirdness happening here because that's what happened before. Okay, so leg top 1. All right. Yep, sure enough, that's weird. And then, yeah, okay. But if you know, repositioning drawings or symbols on stage is something that bothers you, then you are in the wrong business, because that's exactly what animation is. Okay, so, well, this guy looks weird now, but look at this. See, that's kind of the point of chaining all these things up. Now it's even easier to get things back to where we want them to be, because we just select different parts. You might not be seeing this, but I am. Originally, when I drew this leg right here, I wanted this to be on top of the boot, okay? Because I've got this nice little brown part there that is kind of like, you know, the top of the kneecap, and right now that's getting covered up because my boot is on top of that part of the leg. Well, let's go take a look at our hierarchy here, and it's just by chaining them together like that, you know, this ended up visually being on top of this guy, and the foot ended up visually being on top of there. So we need to do a nudge. Okay, so we need to nudge that foot forward just slightly, and I believe if you're on the PC, what you'd be doing. Because I've had trouble doing this on the Mac. I'm not entirely sure why. Again, I'm a new user of the program, although I follow the directions in the tutorials I watched to do this. And from what I understood, all I needed to do would be to take this leg, let's see, and then go over here to like arrange and then bring forward. Okay, those are all grayed out. So then let's say, well, let's say I just had this guy right here, and then go to arrange, send backward, send it all the way back on that layer. And yeah, obviously I'm still thinking about how I'm not doing this right. But I thought all I had to do was just grab this transform tool, as long as animate wasn't on, and then send that guy to back like so. But there's an easy workaround too. And let's look at actually the perspective view for this entire stage right now. Things might look a little grainy, but that's okay. That's actually kind of what we want. In perspective view here, you're in this kind of 3D world, and if you were to hold down, I guess on the PC this would be the control key, probably the alt key and the control key. Using the Mac, it's the option key and the command key, which are the two keys to the left of the space bar on the keyboard. Probably if you're doing this at home, on a PC, it's two of those keys to the side of the space bar. I'm not exactly sure which two, but hold those guys down and you get this neat little rotate mode zipping around this flat 3D surface like that. Okay, so think about this. What we're about to do is to nudge something on its z-axis, and sure enough, this file does have a z-axis. You know, what if you were at a point right over here? See the intersection on the grid? That's further back on the z, on the blue axis right here, than this point right there. But what we'll be doing is making a really minor nudge of it. Okay, so just like a decimal value forward or backward is going to make it visually appear in front of or in back of all these other, you know, well, it's essentially a 2D object in 3D space. So go over here to camera mode again, and by the way, if you weren't already seeing where that perspective was, you can always pull down here and swap out or add in, you know, perspective to your little tab. In fact, you could go over here and do that same thing. See the perspective over there. So without any further ado, I guess there's a couple ways I could do this. I do have a layers property floating out here, and actually right now it says NA, which I assume is like not applicable or not admissible. I think to get this kicked off, what I need to do is maybe actually have some keyframes on here. So let's select all my layers. I'm going to hit F6. That should add a keyframe. I can also go over here to just insert keyframe, and then sure enough, it looks like when I click on that leg now, I do have a z-axis, although I kind of ran into this problem earlier where I am hitting the 1 key. What I want to do is, I think at the moment, I'm not actually using that Z property. So let's do this, but I know how to get around that too. Again, though, I think if you, I think when things are working correctly, all you need to do is go over to arrange, bring forward, bring backward. But click on this right here, and in your timeline, you've also got properties for, well, what you were seeing over here for the layer properties. And let's see. Okay, yeah. See this little guy that I'm clicking down here? This also gives me, you know, the values for things like this offset, offset velocity, scale X, scale Y. And then I noticed over here, I definitely can make this little change. So I'm going to just put in 1 right there. That's actually putting it forward. What I can do is click on this again and see that F for forward or front. I can change that to B, like back. And sure enough, now I've got that knee in front of that other guy there. Okay. Some of you might be thinking to yourself right now, that was a lot of talking for a very, what seems like a very minor thing. But, you know, when you have things chained up on your hierarchy here, or when you're doing any sort of animation, what you're going to find is that body parts don't always stay in front of other body parts. We've actually got kind of an interesting character right here, because for the most part, actually with him walking, visually this arm would probably stay behind this part of the body, and visually this arm right here is going to stay on this 3/4 side. So you might not even run into it. If we really wanted to kind of exaggerate his walk cycle, we could swing this arm not all the way back, but back behind what would be this line of the body. That would be a very exaggerated walk cycle, although, hey, you're an animator, so you're supposed to exaggerate things. But what I'm getting at is, for this particular pose, it's maybe not that likely that you see that too often, that you have to make use of these objects coming backward and forward. But it is essential, and you'll end up doing it more often than maybe you'd even like to. But let's go ahead and collapse this up. One thing that's actually bothering me is that I want to go and double click on this leg, and you know, I've been using the mouse for a while now. Let's get back over here and use the brush again. I just want to go and erase out one little part of it. Okay, well, that's not perfect. Maybe I should probably really just be zooming in and doing this. Okay, something more like that. You know, let's look at this in render view. Well, actually, it's kind of hard to see that in render view because of the black background. So we'll just go back over there. Okay, get back out to the top, and well, it's a little bit better. It's not perfect. Okay, another thing to note, I do have everything keyframed here. I'm going to toggle this back off. These kind of extra options, although yeah, I could talk about those in a second anyway. But let's do this. Let me insert in a few more frames out here, or the correct terminology actually in this program would be to expose more frames. And I know that's getting cut off. I just hovering right over here, it says exposure like that, or actually the one below it, extend exposure. That's what I want to get at. But another quick way of doing it is just to hit F5, or also I could go over here to animation, or actually insert or play. Where is it? Well, somewhere in here is what I just did by right clicking, but I won't worry about it much more than that. Okay. So you can see that I can scrub through here, and I'm seeing this guy throughout all those frames. I believe if you hadn't followed my directions before about taking this timeline and squeezing it down to frame 1, when you put all these layers into to make them into symbols, you might possibly be seeing just this first frame, and then basically you're drawing substitutions, which would have been blank for those extra 59 or whatever they are. you might be seeing that if you hadn't done what I'd followed before, because I did go down that path before and I had trouble. So, but that was my mistake. But you know, it's always possible that you, the student, could be making that same mistake. So just be aware that that could be what's going on. Then in which case, what you'd want to do is go and double click into your symbols and then just take, you know, this extra bit of the timeline, just squeeze it on in there, so you only have that one frame for those guys. Okay, let's do this. Oh, you know what? Is this hat just floating on there? I did actually want to attach that to the head. So, wait, that didn't do it. There we go. I think that did it. Yeah, so sure enough, I can move this hat. You know, I need to be kind of careful now, because now that I do have keyframes, or a keyframe out there, it's always possible that, let's say if I were over here and I had this animate button on, ooh, look at that, things did turn yellow like I was talking about before, and I have my transform tool on. Look at this. Hey, sure enough, just by moving that like so, it registered, hey, you know what, you have made a slight change in time. And now when I go scrub through here, look at that, his head is dipping down like so, and everything that I have hierarchy within there, or everything that is a child of the head, is moving along with it. One thing to note though is that I haven't actually put any keyframes for the hat, the nose, the stash, because they really don't need any, because again, they're kind of grouped in there with that head. But let's give you guys a little example here of the true power of the Death Star. What I'll do is double click on this mustache right here, okay, and let me extend out, if I can get to it. There we go, some frames for this. I'm going to go and hit F5, extend exposure, in that right click menu, and let's just change his mustache slightly at this frame. So what I'm going to do is go over here to drawing, duplicate drawing. You can see now within my drawing substitutions I now have two different drawings. Of course, one of them will be slightly different in just a second. And let's see, how will we do this? There you go. What I'm going to try to do is keep this middle part where it is, okay, and then just have it so that you know, the outer parts of it, the handlebars, there we go, that's the correct terminology, are the things that are moving. And let's see, I think this could probably stand to go move up just a little bit. And let's make that, let's go and do that one more time. So I'm going to hit F5, select this yet again, duplicate drawings. Do want to make sure that I hit that duplicate drawings, or unless I'm incorrect, I think what would be happening is that I'd just be changing the other one. Okay, so it's just kind of compressing in like that. And if I wanted to get even more fancy, I could go and let's see, just draw a little bit more on this one. I could, let's say, put more of a line like that. Okay, see how that works. And if I was going to go and start walking down that path, I could probably just go and do the same thing for that one as well. Maybe even sharpen up that a little bit. And I've got actually one little speck kind of hanging out off to the side. Okay, so go back here to the top. And okay, so his head's kind of bobbling up and down like that. Unfold this. And at this frame right here, I've clicked on stash. And all I'm going to do is just move this. Oh, look at that. Out slightly. and then maybe add another little interval out this way. Move that out there to 3, and sure enough, look at this. Let me move away from that one frame. I know it's kind of hard to tell, but there is this line right here, and that's an indication that you have swapped out your drawing at that point. Okay. Now keep in mind, you haven't swapped out your symbol. Okay, your symbol's still there. All right, it's the same stash symbol. It's just that within there you've stored all these different variations for your drawings, and you know you're not changing anything motion tween wise. Okay, I could actually still go and let's say I'm gonna grab this my transform tool, and at this point maybe just scale it a bit, squash it. So, ooh, I don't want to do that. You know, I don't actually have the best pivot point for this mustache. Really, it should be pivoting about around there. But you can see that I did make that change. Gave me a motion tween, and my substitutions are still occurring within that tween right there. Okay. So maybe what I could do is, let's say at this point, move it up. I was going to say actually right here, get it back to where it began. Pretty nifty, huh? And then if I didn't want to, wanted to kind of ignore that, you know, I just fold that guy back up. Okay, but you know, I actually don't even really want any animation for the head at this point. So let me just go and right-click, delete frames. I believe I do need to also go and just swap out these substitutions as well. Get them all back to 1. Basically just because I don't want my head to be what's timing my footsteps at this point. I'd rather go ahead and block in some of the animation for the footsteps and then figure out what exactly I want the head to be doing based on that. So get that back to where it was. I guess at this point, let's go and put a master peg on to our character. And this will be used as just kind of an animation layer for the entire object. So no matter what we have kind of moving around, cycling through for this character, he'll also be kind of stuck on his own motion path, or again trajectory, based on that peg. And I don't know if I actually have to do this, but let me just trim out these frames here. And actually, if you go all the way down to the bottom of that pop-up, or I think if I have them selected, I just hit delete. Well, let's see. Clear? No? Or that delete. There's so many deletes on a keyboard. Well, it's the second to the last thing at the bottom, so delete. That would, you know, trim off those frames. Again, I'm not exactly sure if I do need to do that, but I'm going to do it anyway before I set up this peg. And let me go to over here to peg. Okay, again, that's just that plus sign, and then there's a peg right there. Let's see. Call it master. And then let's take everything that we've got here. So we do have a keyframe on the first frame for all of them. That's probably something we do need to do. And then we will just select all the layers. And let's see. Oops. Do it again one more time. And then just drag them within here. Nope, that did do it. There we go. Okay, I did notice this actually the last time I was setting up for this lesson, that you can get some weird things like this happening, where the head will end up being in front of, or any object might end up being in front of what's stacked underneath it. So let's go ahead and fix that. And let's see, I think probably the easiest thing just at this point would be to do what I was showing you guys before, where we just give it a little micro nudge. It doesn't seem to, well, yeah, all right, let's see. The odd thing here is that the back of the head is in front of all these other symbols right here. If I were to just to be like moving them around within their attachment to the head, that works fine. It's just that everything right now is behind the head. So let's try this. Let's go and we'll just move everything forward just slightly. So I'm just going to put a 1 for that decimal value. Okay, that sure enough shows itself in front of everything else. Fold that down. Again, we're messing around with the Z-axis. And then, there we go. And you might be wondering, hey, why not, instead of doing that 4 times with all those pieces, why not just take the head and move its Z-axis back? But I think if I did that, the problem I'd have would be that the head is the hierarchical parent for all these other parts, so it would just be taking all those back with it, and then not actually adjusting its forward or backwardness. And then too, I've run the possibility of the head falling behind the body here. Okay, so collapse that back up, collapse this guy back up, and now let's give ourselves some more frames out this way. And actually, this is something I'm used to doing with Flash, is just grabbing a chunk of frames and hitting F5. But that usually ends up just getting you to the first frame. So really, let's say if I want to get out here to 30, I just want to select that one layer and then hit F5 to extend the exposure out there. And now you can see that, again, these nice little color coding hints for this master peg. When I got this guy selected, or if I'm just clicking within here, you can see that everything gets selected like that. Let's click on the animate button. Oh, another indication that something important is happening. That turns yellow. We're going to click on transform. Let's move it slightly just in the beginning here. Actually, what we'll do is let's scale it down some. Move him over there. And then let's come out here to this frame. Move this guy. Move him up. Okay. And actually, that's probably kind of almost too dramatic movement for 30 frames or whatever. Let's select this again. And really, if I was setting this up for real, I'd go through and do the cycle first, and then worry about adjusting his scaling and moving him across, because then you get a really feel for the impact of his steps or the length of his stride. But again, just kind of for examples right now, that's always something that we can undo later on. We could go crazy and put all sorts of different keyframes in there, and we're not really going to be affecting what we do within this little arena, but that's always good to know. And of course, don't forget too that you've got all sorts of different settings within here as well. Let's see, even your skew, things like that. Okay, so let's do this. Let's go and mess around with the inverse schematics some. Why not? And after spending a little bit of time trying to demonstrate this IK on what I'd already created, it got a little bit complicated, I thought, visually. So what I did is I just saved out a file with just the arms, and that way we can look at the IK there, and I think it'll be a little bit simpler just to start off with. So these arms, I don't have any sort of master peg right now. It's just each arm has its own hierarchy, so really just look at each one of these layers, left and right arm, and as we had before, where you can you bend this top part of the arm, and the rest of these guys follow. Bend this middle part, just the hand's going to follow along with that. So we're back to kind of how we were just a few minutes ago. And now, just by the very fact that there is this hierarchy for them, if I were to go over here and click on inverse kinematics, and hold down actually the command key on the Mac, or the Alt key on the PC, you can get to your IK here. I think too, even if you were just to, let's say, have this turned on and then just hit select all, that'll work as well. Yeah, you can see, so I'm just pulling on this kind of bone fragment that's sticking out from the hand here. The program itself doesn't realize that my final part of the chain here is a hand, so it gives me a little bit of extra bonage to kind of pull on. That sounds odd, but what's going on here? It's just giving me basically a handle for it. It should be kind of obvious just watching me swing this thing around how it's moving. It's kind of a nice little organic movement for it, and hence the name Inverse Kinematics. I'm starting from kind of the end of the skeleton here and making everything kind of move after it. And everything doesn't always go exactly how you want. Okay, maybe I'm trying to move this little hand inward toward the right, but really what's happening is it's kind of moving up this whole bone up that way. But for the most part, this is a pretty quick way to animate. And sometimes what you end up doing is, you get things 90%, and then you got to go in and come over here and let's see, grab this little part and then just tweak it slightly. So I don't think it's never really going to be one or the other. You're always kind of moving both of these things. So let's get this back over here like so. And you can see right now that these arms are quite independent from each other. Now, if I added a peg to it, so let's go over here and create a peg layer. By the way, you might have noticed actually that because I had this layer selected when I went over here and went to peg, it immediately put that arm within the peg, and it actually gave it a name of arm 1 peg. Let's go back and actually start calling these master pegs like that. Oh, no. Master, there we go. Doesn't like spaces in those. And then what I'm also going to do is drag the other arm inside of here as well. And I do actually still have this Inverse Kinematics tool turned on, so you can see that you can see obviously a difference here. Now these are connected to each other, and they're connected through that peg. All right. And actually, before I had this guy connected, let's just take a look at that real quick. So if I have just this master layer selected, and again I've got this Inverse Kinematics tool still turned on, you can see that it's added out this extra bone here. You can't really see any effect though by me doing that. I actually did see that bone moves just slightly between the two of them, but you will see a dramatic effect actually when I throw this other arm back in there. So again, you can see they are all connected here. And let's go and move this arm like so. Oh, let's see. Actually, let's try moving this arm. Oh, okay, all right. So you can see now I'm swinging this arm around, and this other arm is following as best as it kind of thinks it should be. And so I'm swinging these arms. It almost looks like this could be some sort of like ninja guy flying through the air here. If you had a body part in the middle of this, that might also be rotating around as well. And that's actually when things kind of get most complicated, is when you have a master peg that's connecting your body, your head, your legs, and things like that. And you become kind of this puppet master of the thing, but that's not. It almost kind of moves like a puppet, where it's weird and quirky, and things are just kind of flailing around. So what I had done actually when I had to just kind of stop recording and scrap the last 10 minutes was I was kind of manipulating that thing, and then I realized, it's not that good. I need to go out and basically get rid of some of the IK that was set up, and that's actually what I'm going to show you guys next here is, let's say, actually let's go just click on the master here, and be sure you have your tool properties open for the Inverse Kinematics. And what you might want to do is just immediately exclude that from your IK chain. Okay, so now let's go back over here. Excellent, there we go. You can see that this is back to being independent. Okay, same thing should be the case for this arm over here like that. And I found that the best way of kind of selecting these IK bones or joints is to just go and select them in the layer like this, okay, down like that. And actually there is a hotkey for moving up and down these guys, which actually I'm forgetting it right now, but that's okay. But so you've got this selected, and let's say I didn't want this hand to be part of the IK. I could go over here and click on, again, exclude from IK. Boom, it's gone. Then let's try moving this around now. So let's see what happens. You can see that the hand is always staying in that rotation that it was at before. I'm still pulling on, I guess, this bottom part of the arm. It certainly doesn't look as good now. But yeah, that hand's just kind of staying stuck there like that. Let's say, though, I had to change a heart. So let's get this. Oops. Let me select that again. And I could go back over here to Bone Addition Tool. And I think, let's see. Actually, I might need to be selecting that layer. Okay, I think I just did that. Let me switch back over here to IK Manipulation. Okay, I don't think I yet have this hand back. But you know what, I did notice that this is still turned on. So let's see. Okay, yeah, alright, now I think maybe I've got it. So let's switch back over here to just the manipulation mode where I'm just kind of moving it around. And now it looks like, sure enough, that hand is swinging around again somewhat. Let's see, I had it just a second ago. It might actually be best if I go and switch over here to just rotating it for a second. And then let's see. Okay, yeah, you can see now. All right, it is moving like it was before. And again, like I was saying too, things do just kind of sometimes bend weird when you're moving them around, so you can't always count on them doing exactly what you want. But so the thing to take away from this right now is that exclude IK, this bone addition mode. We haven't talked about these, the constraints, but and there is another subtool here, this enable rotation or disable it. So if you had that turned off, it looks like that hand isn't rotating now. Turn it back on. And yeah, look at that. They've given you some indication that that wasn't happening by that dot turning on or off. So let's see, when that was clicked or toggled off, you don't see any circle there. Let's go back over here to this arm and let's do the same thing. So let's click on that. You can see that now there shouldn't be any rotation on that thing, so then you're just kind of using this hand right here, this whole just area almost, to just go and move around this part of the arm. Although that is kind of weird that I'm seeing this guy rotate now. But anyway, pretty nifty, huh? So let's go, let me actually go and open up the file that we were working on before, which was our cowboy. I guess I will save that, sure, why not? And you might notice that I did get rid of that tween that I had on the master peg. I did just figure, you know what, why do that now, and instead of doing it later. When I've actually got some cycles set up here, and so let's quickly just go through and run down the IK that's set up on this guy. An easy way of doing that actually is just click on the IK button over here, and then select on the top of your hierarchies for your character, and a good indication first off that it actually has a hierarchy. I mean, IK is you don't see this exclude from IK over here, okay? Whereas if I were to click on the head layer, okay, see how that's toggled on, body, toggled, leg top, nope, not toggled on, and sure enough you do see your chain right there. And same thing, you click on these guys, click on all of them, and then with your master here, I guess you're actually just not even seeing anything, so that's a good sign. Actually, if you were to, let's see, select everything with the IK, there you go. So there's our skeleton. I'm not sure what this guy in the middle here is. Oh, it looks like Oh, it looks like his nose actually has some IK. Let's go and explore that. Why would that be going on? Let's see. So that's part of the head. Oh, that's interesting, buddy. You gave yourself some IK. Okay, well, click on exclude. There you go. How do you like that? Okay, now I think if that might have just come from me messing around too much. Not knowing what I was doing. Well, somebody still in there still has some. Maybe everybody in the head, now that I think about it. Let's do this. Not that it really matters, because I wouldn't be pulling on those. But yeah, that looks to be what happened. Kind of interested now just to see if anything else inside. Nope. Okay, so that got rid of those. And again, actually, I'm kind of glad that happened, because you saw how quickly I just kind of went through there, and I was like, all right, nose layer. Click on this. Click on the exclude from IK. Got rid of it. You saw the bone go away. So, okay, let's fold that up and save. It's always a good idea to save things. And you know what I'll do is I'll save a copy of you guys for you guys of this version where we haven't really animated anything, but the IK is set up. You do have this master peg through here. So let's come out here a few frames, maybe 8 frames, and let's make our first movement for our good old cowboy.